Hello, my name is JP Miller, and I am the author of Leaders Like Us with Rourke Educational Media and Carson DeLusa. Thank you for joining us in the ride along discussion of the Gabby Douglas story. Now, we've already talked about mentor texts and immersion into the subject and also how I do research. Today, we're going to talk about outlining. Now, this is the first time that I actually sit down to start writing something towards the story. And the outline to me is sort of like my roadmap that I use to make sure that the story flows and that the pacing is correct. So the first thing we do, we know that the Writers Like Us and Leaders Like Us has 3 chapters in it. And so it starts off with an introduction. So one of the things that I do just to keep myself on track is to give the number of words approximately that I'd like to have in each one of those areas. And again, that just helps me with pacing. Doesn't necessarily mean to me that I have to stay on point with that number. So with our stories, the first thing we do is start off with a question. And I write that question primarily to pull the reader in and let them feel a part of the story. So I ask them things like, have you ever been interested in sports? And then I go into that Gabby Douglas is an Olympic gold medalist in gymnastics. So it's a thought-provoking question that would make them immediately come into the story. Then I go into the thing that made them famous, so that actual event. So we would start off with Gabby Douglas in the 2012 London Olympics performing and getting her 5 gold medals. Then we go into the next chapter would be her childhood. And that's so it's relatable to the reader. So we talk about how she was interested in gymnastics ever since she was a child. At age 7, she started. And then the next part of the outline, we will go into basically how her contribution to gymnastics affected the sport, the world, and other aspects of her life. And if there's any awards or anything that she has won. I also, at this time in doing my outlines, have to start considering vocabulary words that we want to introduce to the reader. I have to think about the questions for the end and the activity area that I would like to ask. So all of that is part of my process in doing the outline. Once that outline is complete, I will send it to Carson DeLusa, to my editor, and she'll go over it and we'll decide back and forth on whether this is the way we want the story to flow, whether we want something to move forward or move to the back, or sometimes eliminate it altogether. So that outline, again, is like my roadmap to get me into the writing process. So I hope that gives you a better understanding of how I write, and probably how a lot of other authors put their guidelines down for how they want the story to flow. Thank you very much for joining us.